Hi everyone! We've shot so many of these videos now, we had to figure out a new way to introduce ourselves. It was getting really boring doing the same old way over and over again. So here we are for session 19. And if you've got kids in the relationship, you're really going to enjoy this. This is how you deal with kids. And we've got 5 great principles for you to work on and how to get your relationship right between you by dealing with the kids in the right way. And the real reality is that when your relationship's good, you'll find the kids are really great. So the first rule is that kids show you what is out of balance. So if your relationship's not going fantastic, the kids will reflect that. And it's like, have you ever seen those days where, you know, like you're in the house and the kids are hanging around, but they are driving you crazy with all the stuff they're doing. You know, they'll just get in and do that stuff that they know really irritates you.
Or they're overly demanding.
Yes, being really boisterous in the house. They're sending you a message saying, spend some time with me. Because kids' currency really is the amount of time they spend with you.
And you'll find that it's actually not a lot of time. You know, when you give the child that, say, an hour and a half on a one-on-one, it actually is enough for them. You know, they're happy then to go off for the rest of the day and do their own thing.
But you've got to figure out which of your kids is playing which role in the family. So when we do our seminar, the Ignite Leadership Seminar, we talk about roles in teams. And the very first team, as we've said before, that you're ever in is your family. So we play certain roles. So in every family there's a black sheep, there's a golden child. Which of your kids is playing which role? One is going to tend to be more boisterous and be the one that focuses all the negative attention on themselves and becomes that signal in the family for things aren't being right.
Yes. And then there's one that's the easy child.
Yeah. So when kids are misbehaving, they're sending you a clear message. I need more time from you. There's an unsatisfied need in me, an emotional need in me that you as the parents aren't satisfying. So what is that need?
And when people do Ignite, our leadership program, one of the first things they say when they go home, the kids notice the difference immediately and the kids' behaviour has been different. It's one of the first things that everybody says.
Absolutely. You know, we had one 9-year-old child as an example. Come to her mother after she'd done Ignite, and she came up and gave her mum, you know, one of those hugs where it's like you hug the person and you let go, but they're still like hanging on. And the mum was looking down going, are you okay? You know, what's happening for you? And the daughter looked up at her and she said, Mummy, your heart's open.
And she wasn't a huggy child, so it was interesting. But kids are intuitive, they just pick up what's happening.
So when the kids are misbehaving, you've got to ask yourself, okay, what's really going on here? Do they need more time from me? And kids, like, they love playtime, and that means one-on-one playtime. They might be doing some crafts. If you're a guy, that means going out, kicking the footy, jumping on the trampoline, playing hide and seek, throwing the ball, climbing fences, climbing trees, doing all that sort of guy-type stuff. And if you're the woman, then maybe it's...
Well, I do all that as well, but then I would probably do some cooking with them when Brett doesn't.
But she doesn't climb trees as well as I do.
He broke the swing yesterday.
Only a little bit, but I fixed it.
So, you know, that's the first principle is, you know, if the kids are playing up, look at your own relationship and what's happening. If the kids are awesome, look at your own relationship because it's just a mirror reflection. So
find the things that your kids really like doing, hook into that. Because I know very early on with River, you know, she'd want me to come and play.
Our 8-year-old.
Yes, now 8-year-old. But when she was younger, she wanted me to come and play. And it would be like get the 2 Barbies and get Ken and, you know, they're fighting or they're kissing or they're doing all this sort of stuff. And it was like, I'm rolling my eyes thinking of work stuff I need to do and, you know, other stuff that might be happening around the house. Instead of being really present with River when I'm doing that. Until finally I saw in River's face the joy that she was getting from me being present. And we've noticed a consistent pattern now with that. You know, when you give to your kids in that way, they're just so much calmer, so much more better behaved after you've spent that one-on-one time with them.
And for Guy then it helped Brett to see in her eyes what she gets from him playing, which is the motivation for him to get down on his knees and play.
That's it. Now, principle number 2, if there's any sort of rivalry between the kids, they're indicating for you that there's some sort of imbalance in the attention that they're getting. Because the basic principle in any team or any family is we're looking for 2 main things. That's love and attention. And for kids, they're big on the attention, big on the love. So when there's rivalry, either consciously or unconsciously, the parents are dishing out those 2 things unevenly. So the kids will then fight because they can't tell the parents that. They don't speak in that way. And they show it through their behaviour. So, just through your personality, you might get on better with one child than the other.
Yeah. And often that's the case. Often you can get on with one child than the other child. Doesn't mean to say you love them any less or any more. That's not what we're saying. But often you get on with one. One has a personality that goes with yours easier. So, and often the one that's rubbing you up the wrong way, often there's a lot of things in that child that is unresolved in yourself.
Yes, they're a reflect.
You're usually quite similar.
Yeah, exactly. They're a mirror to you. So the one you're not getting on with and you think is opposite to you, you go, no, she's really like you. Guess what? It's actually exactly like you.
So to get over that, to move forward, just recognise what is similar in you both.
Yes.
And where do you need to go? You're the adult, remember? Where do you need to go to help the child overcome that? And just be aware of, the time that's spent and find something that the child's doing right.
You have to work out what the imbalance is between the 2 of them, and you might need, and which imbalance it is in the 2 of you. So I might be spending more time with Chase as an example than with River. So then I need to balance out my time. You'll only get the rivalry going on when that imbalance is there. So figure it out. Who needs more attention and who do they need it from? Once you do that, again, you'll find the whole scenario calms down, the family becomes balanced, and it's just good times again. Now, the big one, principle number 3, discipline. How do you get the kids to do what you want them to do?
Well, first of all, boundaries for kids equals safety.
Absolutely.
So if you're giving your kids boundaries, they feel safe.
So those boundaries need to be around some simple rules that you want to set up. Now, you can use the old stick or you can use the carrot, which is more effective. Lots of debate, lots of articles around it. In our experience, not just with our family, but with lots of families, you find if you want to influence your kids, you need to understand what their currency is. You're better to use the carrot than the stick. Now, sometimes when you put in place your boundaries around behaviour, sometimes you have to use a stick. But again, you want to use the old nanny trick. The naughty corner works really well. Kids don't like it and they realise there's a consequence to bad behaviour. So work out what's the currency. Is it time on the PlayStation?
And if you're not getting the results you want, you actually haven't found the right currency.
Yes.
Like my daughter, was, when she misbehaved, after 3 warnings, it was no dessert.
Yes.
Well,
big currency for River.
And that was just massive. When my son, it's the PlayStation.
Yes.
So very different currencies.
Once you work out that what is, use both. Reward them for chores with pocket money, and at the same time, when they're not meeting the boundaries that you've set up, take something away from them. But never, ever use yourself as the currency. Never use the love and the attention as the currency for which you're trading. Pick something else, because when you take that away, it has deeper and more long-lasting behavioural effects on them, and behaviours that you don't want to instill into them.
And just make it quite clear, I love you, but I'm not putting up with this behaviour.
That's right.
So you're really separating the behaviour from them.
Yeah, because the kids always have to know that you love them. You never take that away from them, even in the heat of anger, even when you're getting really frustrated with them. So, in terms of discipline, principle number 4 is 3 simple rules. And this one works really well, doesn't it?
It really works well in families, and quite often, especially if you feel like you're on your child's back. You know, it's just like, oh, it's one thing after another, you're always on the back. What I'd suggest is think about 3 rules. Now be careful which rules you pick, and the child has to stick to those 3 rules, and there's consequences if those 3 rules are broken. It's important to really pick your rules wisely, because you have to let go of all other rules in the house. So be very careful, and you usually stick to these 3 rules for about 3 months, and there obviously needs to be a consequence if these rules are broken.
Now some parents are going to freak out and think, 3 rules only? How the hell am I going to run the house on 3 rules? But it works really well, because what the kids learn is it's simple to remember, particularly when they're younger. It's simple to remember, it's easy to follow, and they can win.
Yes.
Because when you've got so many rules, what happens?
And it also gets you off their back.
Yeah.
So it actually works tremendous with teenagers, because a lot of people think, look, they're at their teenagers' back all the time. So it may be with teenagers, the homework's done, it's no partying during school night. So basically, if you stick to those 3 rules, the teenager has more respect for those 3 rules. Now, if there's another behaviour happening, I remember with my son sitting at the dinner table, and we've got our 3 rules, and of course he's sitting at the dinner table chopping his chops away, and it's like I can't really get on his back about eating dinner with his mouth open. So when you're aware of the 3 rules, you can be more creative with other things.
Yes.
So I said, okay, who's got the best manners tonight? And of course he stopped and he started eating properly. And that was just, the 3 rules makes you more creative with other areas, and you do get off their back. And the whole idea of these 3 rules is for the child to have only 3 things to think about,
yes,
and for you to get off their back.
And so you set it up so they win. So with other things, you might want to look at doing something more creative, such as if it's bath time and they're still messing around and not moving, even when you've asked them once or twice or 3 times. Then it could be, okay kids, let's go. First person in the bath wins a big hug from daddy. And you race them up to the bath, instead of having to be on their back and force them into that. Works really well. Principle number 5, very simple, but in line with the rest. Figure out, are your kids internally referenced or externally referenced? So what we mean by that is that when you're trying to influence someone, they'll look at what you're saying inside themselves, they'll process it. And if they're internally referenced, they will only take what they already know and reference what you're saying to them against that. So you're coming up against their beliefs, in other words. If they're externally referenced, then they're very easily influenced by outside things.
Like other kids,
yes,
for example.
Yeah, at school.
Influence them.
Or like our son Chase, he'll watch something on TV and he'll see the latest Ben 10 or Skylanders, and he's just got to have that thing, So those pictures on TVs and those ads, they work really well with him. Pepsi and Coke, they love him, but he doesn't get any, of course, on that stuff. But he certainly gets his Skylanders and things like that. River, not so much. She's very, very internally referenced. And you can tell River until you're blue in the face, and it will make no difference to her. So I remember one occasion with River, and she came home from school, and she was standing in front of the mirror, looking at herself, and I thought, okay, she's just doing the normal girl thing, preening herself, making herself look beautiful in front of the mirror.
And River's 8.
Yeah. And I said to her, River, what are you doing? And she said, I'm looking at how ugly I am, Daddy. And, as a parent, when you hear something like that, your heart just breaks. And I said to her, not thinking about, internally or externally, I said to her, River, you're a beautiful girl. You've got gorgeous hair, you've got a beautiful face, you wear lovely clothes, and more importantly, you've got a beautiful heart. And I could just tell that had no effect on her at all.
Internally referenced, remember, so it has no effect.
And a couple of days later, I saw her doing it again. I thought, okay, this has got to stop. So I planned my approach, and I waited until we were going to bed, And River and I have this little ritual, and she'd lie down on the bed, I'd lie down next to her, just going off to sleep with the light out or the lamp on. And she'd just tell me about her day. I'd ask her, you know, what was your day like? What did you like? What didn't you like? What was a positive thing that happened? And I just said to her, River, you remember you telling me, about that little girl at school that said that you were really ugly? And she said, yes. And I could tell that she could see I was about to make a point of going somewhere with this. So I didn't look at her. I was just looking up at the ceiling. And I said, so River, who do you think would tell you the truth more? The little girl at school or Mummy and Daddy? And I looked at her out of the corner of my eye, and she thought, and she said, Mummy and Daddy. So internally, she'd already answered the question herself. What the little girl was telling her was obviously not the truth. And what Daddy and Mummy were saying was the truth.
And it worked.
Yeah. And I didn't have to tell her that. And after that, she never mentioned again.
No, and she hasn't done that again.
Yeah. So there are some great techniques that you can learn to influence externally referenced kids and internally referenced children. So I hope those 5 principles are really useful for you. Review them a couple of times, put them into place in your family, and we promise you will see the effects. Life will start to be really, really enjoyable. And even if it's good now, it can always get better.
There's always somewhere to go.
There's always somewhere to go. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you in the next session. Bye for now.